What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed, make sure and click the subscribe button, like, comment, let us know what you think about the episode. If there's a recommendation that you have for a guest or topic, we're always checking comments on YouTube. Love to hear from you guys and then be able to incorporate your suggestions into future episodes. Today I'm going to be chatting with Dustin from Sterling Diesel Performance, and I came across his C10 build, which definitely caught my eye. I wanted to have him on the podcast and talk about it. It's a beautiful truck. It's got a 7.1 liter Duramax stroker with a true twin turbo kit on it, and the thing's a work of art. So we're going to chat with him about the truck, the chassis, the transmission, how he built it, and then also get a walk around of the truck. So if you're listening to this on a podcast app or on our YouTube, definitely make sure and head on over to catch the video of the truck. And it's a great way to be able to see, what we're chatting about. And, the engine bay on this thing is amazing. So you guys are going to love it. Before we get to it, though, I want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, which is Kershaw Knives. They have a 20% off site-wide code for you. Just use code 23diesel20 at kershaw.kaiusa.com. It's a great way to save some money on some really cool gear. So if you need something for hunting, fishing, EDC, something at the job site, they've got a bunch of different choices regardless of what your budget is. Their latest model this year is the Duralock model, which is it's a really cool knife. I've got a few of them myself. I always have one in my pocket. The blade is D2 steel, and the way that it opens is really smooth, and it keeps your fingers away from the blade when you open and close it. They've got a bunch of different blade shapes, also different handle designs, handle materials. So definitely make sure and head on over if you're in the market, check them out, and use code 23diesel20 for 20% off site-wide. All right, let's get to today's podcast with Dustin and talking about his custom C10 build. Dustin, welcome to the Diesel Podcast. I enjoyed our chat a few years back when we were talking about your Duramax race truck, and I was browsing social media. I don't know how I missed your C10 build, but I've always loved C10s, and you have a really clean, awesome one with the Duramax in it. And I'm like, man, I got to have Dustin back on the podcast to tell me about this build and what you've been up to. So welcome back.
Appreciate you, give me a call, man. I mean, that's it's pretty awesome. I had a blast on the first one, and y'all have upgraded a little bit. Video now,
yeah, we got
more phone.
Yeah, we're getting fancy over here. Before we get into the truck, what's been new at Sterling Diesel Performance? What have you guys been up to?
Man, well, a lot in the past year. So as you know, last time we were on here, we had actually gone through 2 floods at the previous shop. And probably over the last, so we actually been in our new shop for about a year, but for the past year and a half, we've been building a new shop. So we finally got that done June, towards the end, beginning of June last year, and got moved in, and we've been in almost a year now. A lot bigger facility, 7,500 square feet. It's right off the highway. It's located in Splendora, Texas, about 10 minutes north of New Canaan, where we used to be. We ended up moving up here as well and built the house, right around the corner.
Nice. Was the move pretty smooth, or did you guys run into any headaches getting all the stuff over there and just moving to a different location?
Man, I mean, the move was easy. That was the easiest part of the whole deal. The hardest process was building the house and a shop at the same time. I don't recommend it to anybody. It's very difficult.
I've had people tell me, I mean, building a house is hard enough by itself, and I imagine, well, either doing a shop and, or a house is hard, but at the same time, that was probably really intense.
Yeah, it'll test your patience for sure.
Well, I mean, I don't know anything about your C10. I just saw pictures of it, and I was mentioning a little bit before the podcast, one of my favorite, well, it is my favorite classic truck, is that C10, the C10s. And as like diesel guys, we always sit back and think, what would be the dream build if I did one? And I always thought, man, it would be awesome to have a C10 with a Duramax. I don't know if I'd do an LB7 or an LBZ, or I'm not sure which one I do, but I've always kind of thought about it. And you got one there. So now I got to pick your brain about the build and the truck. So tell me about the truck itself.
Man, so it's kind of started off as just a thought. I mean, something I've seen C10s with Duramax before. I've seen 4-wheel drive C10s, but most of the time they're in like a big lifted up, chassis with a lifted up 4-wheel drive C10. Very rarely do you see one that's kind of low to the ground. all-wheel drive that can play around on the street. I mean, there's a few Duramax C10s out there, but I don't think there's anything quite like this. It kind of turned, it started off as a what are we going to do with it? What motor are we going to put in it? What power? What are we going to do? Turbo? We're going to do blower? I mean, it just going back and forth with different options. It took a while to come up with what we wanted to do. So it's a 72 C10. It's a all-wheel drive. It's got a 7.1 Strucker engine in it. It's got 48 RE manual or 48 RE trans with PCS controlled valve body. I mean, it's electric shift. It's not manual. Like the race truck. It's a very similar power plant to the race truck. Our original plans were, do a blower, maybe coming out of the hood with zoomies sticking out of the fender. Like, we wanted to go wild with it. Not very many people have done a Duramax with a blower, so we didn't really know if it would work. So we decided to go with true twins, and I was big on making sure that it was parallel. Everything had to be symmetrical, and everything had to be symmetrical. And we kind of teamed up with Truck Source in San Antonio, and Nate has a vision from hell. I mean, that dude is extremely, extremely good with everything that comes to his mind as far as ideas. I mean, his fabrication, his wiring, just everything this kid does is top notch. It doesn't get any better. And just the team that they got over there is second to none. So we started acquiring parts over the past couple of years. I purchased the engine from a buddy of mine that I actually sold parts to. He was building a race truck. He wanted a stroker, so I bought it. I ended up selling everything to him, and then purchased it back from him. Never even used it. Built the engine. Was going to put it in the truck, and decided, hey, I'm gonna go somewhere else with it. So I bought the engine from him. Bought another trans. This will make the third 48 RE trans we got. We've got two, for the race truck, one for a spare and one for this. It's got a, four-wheel drive. It's a stock GM transfer case, stock GM front differential. It's got, I mean, I can go on for days. I can tell you anything you want to know.
How much work did you have to do with like the body or the frame or anything like that? Was it a restoration you had to do, or was that already done with the truck itself?
So actually, this is not even a factory VIN. Sorry, I'm not good with camera. So this is not even a factory VIN C10 at all. So what this is there's a company in Dallas that sells lots and lots of C10 parts. They like manufacture cabs, fenders, hoods, beds, everything you can think of, right? So we reached out because I didn't really want to buy something that was rusted out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to restore something. So we reached out to this company in Dallas, and I can't remember the name of them right off the bat, but they had everything in stock. So we purchased a brand new cab. I mean, everything you see is brand new. I mean, from front to back, bolts, bushings, washers, fender, grill, everything you could think of. It's brand new. So, the chassis is a 2006 Chevrolet 2500 4x4 chassis. That's a factory GM chassis. We took it. Jeff Tullis Jeff Hogue out of New Caney, Texas, with Tullis Collision, helped us pretty much take the cab and the whole body section of the truck and fit it on the frame. Nate cut everything down to fit it as a short bed. Jeff went to San Antonio, him and his wife. We kind of assembled it there and then brought it back, and we did all the body work and everything to kind of just, get the pre-fitment as close as we could. So after we got done with that, we took it back to San Antonio, and that's when the real work started happening. I mean, buying stuff, fitment, engine fitment, building the trans tunnel inside the cab. Like, it's just everything you think of. It's all brand new. Nothing is just a factory Chevrolet.
Gotcha. How hard was the fitment of the engine and the difficulty in getting like the transmission to fit? Like say if somebody maybe they did have like an older C10 that they wanted to do something similar to this, would they run into a lot of fitment issues with fitting the Duramax in there, and maybe they do want to go 48RE and getting it into the truck?
Man, as far as like the fab side goes, I don't really feel like there was a whole lot of issues with fitment. We did cut out the trans tunnel, and I think that was more on fitting the transfer case side of things and not the trans. The trans tunnel was cut out; it was raised a little bit, but other than that, I think that was about it. I mean, I think we played with moving the engine back, and then moving it forward. Nate did, and for the most part, it's sitting factory inside the chassis. I mean, as well, there's tons of room underneath the hood of a C10. I mean, like there's mountains of room, so it fit pretty well.
Now as far as like the power of the engine and the transmission build, walk me through that a little bit. Like what kind of fueling does it have? What size turbos? What power number were you aiming for?
So originally, I wanted to get as much as I could out of it. I really wanted to have this truck run 580, 590 in the eighth mile. If I wanted to run it in the index class, I could. But my goal was always like, just, hey, give me like a 590, 6.0 truck just to play around with on the street and drive it to the racetrack and then drive it home. That's what I wanted to do. So we teamed up with S&S Diesel for all of our fueling. It's 250% LBZ base injectors. It's we've got I believe a 14 mil injection pump. We've got the turbos are a GTX 3576 Garrett chargers, symmetrical. So Garrett, they only had three options at the for choices for symmetrical twins. Not really big differences between the three, but we went with I think it's GTX 3576. And at the beginning, they're putting on the dyno, trying to dial everything in. It was a little bit of a task. We didn't think the turbos were going to work. I think we ended up actually having the gates plumbed in correctly. So we got them plumbed correctly, and man, I mean, it makes real good power. So I think on fuel, it makes somewhere between 750 and 800 horsepower on fuel. And then it's got, I believe, 4 kits of nitrous. And I want to say it made somewhere around 1100, 1150. I'd have to go back and look. I think the biggest thing we fought was shaft speed on the turbos, trying to keep them maintained in that comfort zone. When we finally got the gates plumbed correctly, it started singing from there. I mean, it's the response of it. I mean, through the whole process of Nate and them putting it on the dyno and playing with it and driving it, and the text messages I'm getting, and like how well the thing drives down the road. I mean, how responsive it was. I mean, it was just super, super exciting. So finally, when I got it in my hands and I drove it, I was just blown away. I mean, it drives absolutely amazing. The PCS controlled trans, it's not as firm shifting as my race truck. It's kind of progressive, as throttle is changed, pressure's changed. I mean, it just drives. I mean, the spooling, the street manners of it, it's a whole lot different, and it doesn't sound like a diesel at all. I mean, nobody knows it's a diesel. We went to SEMA with it, and on the cruise out, everybody's like, rev it up. I mean, everybody's asking me if it's an LS or what's in there, and then you rev it up and you got black smoke coming out the side, and they're like, "What the hell? It's a diesel!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." I mean, it's so loud. I've made a few pulls on the freeway with it with some buddies kind of next to me, and I mean, with the windows down and the fender exit exhaust, it's just, they say it sounds like a loud V8 just singing. It's extremely loud. I love
it. With the turbo, so the turbos that you have, they're both the same size.
Correct.
I know that it really interests me because in diesel, it's always you get a small one feeding a bigger one, or you get a really big one feeding an even bigger one, like on a race setup. So what was the theory or the want that you had to do two equal sized chargers on the engine?
Man, it wasn't something that, I mean, I'll be honest, none of us knew how it was going to work. I mean, none of us. There's some dragsters out there that got twins, but other than that, I mean, it was kind of one of them things where we were just, we hope it worked. And the biggest thing that I had set for this truck was I wanted everything symmetrical. I wanted everything simple, clean, nothing that was just super extravagant, something that was difficult to work on. I wanted it as simple and as clean as possible. And we, went back and forth. We're trying, what turbos were we going to go with? We knew Garrett made symmetrical twins. And I mean, getting a set of symmetrical twins, it's difficult as it is. I mean, not everybody makes them. They're not easily available. So we went with a set that we thought would work. I think KC Turbos is the guys that kind of recommended this size to us, and I think we kind of just went off of that. And man, it works. Would I like to have a little bit bigger setup? Absolutely. Hopefully in the future, Garrett will come out with something better, or better and bigger. And we'll try it out and see. I mean, but man, it makes more than enough power right now to enjoy the truck.
How would you compare the drivability differences between that setup and like a compound setup where we think of like, a 62 and a 76 or a 66 and an 80 or something like that? Is the drivability different at different RPM ranges?
In my opinion, yeah. So I'm a huge compound fan. I mean, every truck that I've ever built in the past, I mean, whether it's my LML, the race truck, I mean, compounds is my favorite. And because it's just the torque that they make over the torque curve. I mean, it feels like it never falls off.
Yeah.
I will say that compounds, in my opinion, is a little bit more laggier than this setup. It takes a second for it to spool, kind of depending on where you are at the RPM range, how much boost you're currently making. I mean, it's definitely different. In the twins, it's like driving down the road, you're in the throttle, quarter throttle, medium throttle, just cruising, and you could just pretty much just blip the throttle. Like, I mean, you can just stab it and it's there. It's kind of like driving I don't know, I'm trying to compare it to something like it kind of reminds me of driving my wife's Yukon with her 6.2 in it. It just, you hit the throttle and it goes. I mean, there's not really any delay. And then when you turn the nitrous on, it's just totally different animal. I mean, it's loud, it's fast. The truck just, so obviously if you have two-wheel drive, you just blow the tires off. Anything past half throttle, you're blowing the tires off. Full-wheel drive, it's a different animal. The moment you hit the throttle, it's the ass end just sits down and it's gone, and it's straight as an arrow.
That's gonna be fun to race, fun to take to the track.
It's hard for me to take it to the track. I've taken it to the track. We had a big event in Baytown at one of the last races. It was the last race that Baytown ever had. And we took it out there and showed it off a little bit. Didn't really run it. It's just hard to take something of this caliber and the amount of money that's in this truck and take it down the strip, but I'm going to. And who knows, we might do it at UCC this year.
That'd be cool. Now with the transmission, did you go all in, like billet, input, intermediate, output,
Everything.
Everything.
It's the only difference between this trans and the trans in the race truck is the PCS controlled valve body. This one is a PCS control. The race truck's a manual valve body. They all have Sancher shafts, Suncoast internals, Suncoast converter. I mean, they're the same. They're identical. We know it works in the race truck. We knew it would work in this.
Thought of a question, kind of a curveball to throw you when you had mentioned the 48, and I know the one's in your race truck. We had done a like a YouTube short recently, and somebody had the question that we had posed was, is a 48 RE better than an Allison? And someone had said, oh no, the Allison hands down is the best. And I wanted to ask you, because I know that's a really interesting topic. If you could help us and our audience understand like where an Allison shines in what applications, and then where in these higher power levels a 48 RE becomes, say, better or more beneficial to run, like in your race truck and in this. So if somebody's in this position, they haven't done a build yet, they haven't spent the money, but they're thinking, okay, do I invest in building my Allison 1000, or do I do this 48 RE swap and PCS controller, or manual valve body, and go that route?
Man, I mean, Allison's a totally different transmission. I mean, that's on a different spectrum when it comes to building a race truck. I had an Allison in the race truck from the beginning, and it worked. It worked all the way up till, when you're getting into a 670 index class and you're 12, 1100, pretty much 1,000 to 1,300 horsepower. I mean, you're into that level. I mean, how many good solid passes are you going to get out of that trans before you got to pull it out and refresh it? And then, I mean, the TCM comes into play big time on an Allison. I feel, I mean, and some people can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, but I feel as if the TCM on an Allison is not always going to be consistent in a drag application. I don't feel that it's going to do the same thing twice every single time. I mean, is there guys out there that really make these things work? Yes, I've seen some records being broken with these Allisons. I mean, I think I'm trying to think of their name right off the bat. I mean, there's two in particular that come to mind. There's a black crew cab short bed that's gone, like, I want to say 570s, 580s. I mean, there's guys that have gone, and there's another brown single cab. I think Nathan Banstra. These guys have gone further with the Allison in a drag application than I ever have. We fought the Allison for a while at the beginning of our racing career, and it just kind of, I was always having to do something to it. In my opinion, would I go back to it? No way. Not knowing what I know with the 48 and how well it works. Now, when it comes to a daily driving vehicle, an LML, LBZ, 1,000, 1,100 horsepower in a street-driven vehicle, it's a totally different area of driving. An Allison all day long. I would so much rather have an Allison. I mean, the smooth shifts. I mean, just the more things that you can control with an Allison versus the 48 and a daily driver. Yeah, I love it. I mean, and an Allison's not violent on the shifts either. It's smooth, man. I mean, a 48, they're harsh. They're going to shift firm. You're going to feel it. It's not something that you're going to want to get in and drive it, across the United States. I mean, we build Allisons multiple times a week. We build high horsepower Allison transmissions all the time, and every one that I've built, I can get in it. And, and most of the trucks that we build them for are compound trucks. I mean, I can get in it and drive it across the United States and it'll work. I mean, I've got love for the Allisons. They're amazing. But in my opinion, the 48 swap truck drag racing, for drag racing applications is much better. I mean, I feel like I've gone really, really far with the 48. I'll say that from the beginning, it was a little tough trying to figure it out. I mean, I want to say we are now in our fourth case. And we cracked 3 of them. We're now in our 4th one. And every single time that I've cracked a case in the 48 due to, pressure issues and learning it and trying to figure out what it likes, all the internals in that case are in the fourth case right now. We haven't reclutched it. We haven't done anything to it. I barely even maintenance the thing. I may change the fluid in the filter once a year, but other than that, I don't touch it. And it does what it's supposed to do every single time. I can count on, one hand that I've actually had to use my spare trans for my 48.
It's a really good answer. And I think it definitely helps shed light on it, because it's not so simple as which one's better. Because I agree with you. I think daily driving, Allisons are so smooth, and they can hold, there's a ton of upgrades for them. So if you have a daily driven truck that, you're making some good power with, they're really nice to drive. But you think of the ultimate control that you have with PCS or the manual shifting, the manual valve body, and being able to shift it and control it, and all the technology that's gone into those. I think in racing, it's definitely something that gives you an advantage over the electronically controlled transmissions, that are, with the TCM and the learning, the adaptive learning, and all those sorts of things. So it's a tough question to kind of answer, because it depends on,
right,
on the application itself. It was really cool before the podcast when I didn't know the truck was going to be behind you, and I'm like, for our YouTube audience, you got to give us a walk around, pop the hood. And I always say it on every podcast, I'm like, definitely listen to us on podcast apps, but if you want to see, the parts and the trucks and stuff, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I wanted to see if you could walk us around and show us the engine a little bit, and show us the truck. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if I can swap this thing around and figure out how to do this. All right. Well, first things first, let me get my hood latch so I can pop this thing. Hold on one sec. Can I set the phone down?
Yeah. The interior is nice. You got it all. It's clean.
Oh yeah, let me pop the hood. All right, so we actually just got this thing back from my guys over at H&M Fab, Jason Pena. He's located in Cleveland, Texas. So I'll start with the basics. MTI did all of the interior, custom door panels. The carpet on the door panels, the green inlay. The floor mats, the carpet in the flooring. It does have a little bit of sound to it. We've got they did all the audio. We pretty much wanted to kind of keep everything in its factory location, everything usable in the truck. They did custom kick panels. Got a little stub hiding back here in the back.
Nice. It's super clean. Like the attention to detail on every panel, the doors, the dash. It's really nice.
So Jason over at H&M Fab, the biggest thing that we fought with on this truck was having some safety. Originally, we had a bar that bolted into these factory 3 mounting points on the back of the cab, and that's where the seatbelts hooked to. I knew that wasn't going to work. I felt that, if something was to ever happen, I needed something better for safety. So these guys hooked me up, man. They got a full row bar bolting in all factory location points of the cab with the bar all the way across the back for the seatbelts to mount to. And it's just secured with stainless fasteners. It's just absolutely beautiful. Obviously, we got to have the nitrous bottle in the middle. With the Corbeau racing seats, we got our Corbeau harnesses, custom center console by Nate at Truck Source. He built all of this. The mount, got to get some stickers for our nitrous buttons, but they're there. They even put the Moscone controls in the radio in the dash for the radio. Got vintage air, got AC and heat, gotta have it. Probably so we got our custom headliner. visors, but probably the thing that tops this truck off more than anything would be this right here. Ken Block signature we got at SEMA this past year
Wow.
on the glove box store.
Oh man, that's awesome. Wow, this is a dream build. This is I,
No doubt a dream build.
oh yeah. It's if you're listening on a podcast app, you have to jump onto YouTube and you got to see this truck, like the attention to detail. And we haven't even got to the engine yet, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. But man,
Oh
it's a
yeah,
beautiful
so
truck.
we got so another thing we kind of fought with this truck was finding a set of 8 lug beadlock wheels, right? Not a lot of companies make them, so we ended up getting away from the beadlock. Went to a 6 lug half ton Chevy bolt pattern, and the guys over at 3030 Autosport built us a custom set of beadlock wheels for this truck.
Wow. Oh, there's the
But
engine.
this is the best part right here.
Oh man.
So Nate
Wow.
at Truck Source absolutely freaking killed it with this. Um, Symmetrical twins, Motec. Whole truck's controlled by Motec, every bit of it. You can kind of see the nitrous hiding down there.
Yeah.
Got 2 jets over here, and then 2 jets in the front, intercooler.
This is a SEMA truck. Like this is this you talked about wanting to keep everything symmetrical and seeing it I see why. Like the it's so hard to put into words just the visual, appearance of the engine bay, how clean everything is in there. The piping.
Yeah, Nate did it absolutely. I mean, he killer work, man. I've done told Chris multiple times. I wish we can clone everybody that he's got in his shop so that I can move them over into my shop because those guys are badass.
I'm not sure I would race this truck. I think I would just keep it in my garage and look at it, maybe start it up every now and then, go around the block, and I don't know if I'd want to get it dirty.
Man, it's really hard to not want to take it to the track because I definitely love racing, but I rip around on the street all the time with this thing.
It is it is really unique. I knew when I saw the pictures, and I thought this would be great to chat about on the podcast, but I didn't understand the depth of the build itself, the attention to detail, the performance side of it. And I'm curious, like when you do take this out or you go to a show and you find those older guys that are into, the old trucks, what do they tell you? What do they say? Because they were in like the muscle car era and shortly after it, and they did a lot of stuff with small blocks and big blocks. What's their opinion on it?
So I'll be honest, I haven't got to go to enough of those little local shows that I've wanted to go to because we've kind of just been finishing up odds and ends on it. But that is the plan. We are going to be going to quite a few. We've already got some lined up for after UCC. It will be at UCC in the S&S Diesel Motorsport booth. But man, I mean, I'll tell you, uh, the main show that I was at, and then having it at LST. I mean, the questions that I've gotten about it, and they just, I mean, a lot of these old guys, they're just kind of blown away with it. I mean, it's something different, something that you never see. It's a one of one build. I mean, I haven't had any negative comments about it yet. And you know how some of these C10 guys are. C10 in itself is just a group of people that they love these trucks. They're passionate about them. They know everything there is to know about them. I mean, I haven't had anything negative about it. I mean, there's so much to this truck that I wish I could show. I wish I had a lift that I could just drive it on right now. But like, let me just kind of give you a glimpse of the suspension. So everything underneath this truck is custom, minus our steering components. Everything's kryptonite here, but all of our control arms, our knuckle, I mean, everything was just completely made for the truck. I mean, it's from top to bottom. It just doesn't get any better.
This is exactly like when we dream of a build, what we want to do. Like we want whatever paint color we choose, whatever wheels and tires, and then we want, like when you showed underneath the truck, you could eat off of any of the suspension components there. I mean, you could eat off the top of the engine if you wanted to.
You definitely can. She does need a little bit of a bath. She hadn't been cleaned up since SEMA underneath, but it's been, bouncing around from little shop to little shop, trying to just get the small things done. But her time's due. She's we're going to put her up on the lift of the shop and just kind of go through it and get everything detailed as much as possible. There's still some small things that we want to do to it, but overall, man, she's pretty much done. This is just some of the our main group of sponsors that helped us out. Impact Paint and Collision. These guys did all the paint work. Suncoast with the trans, S&S with the Motec standalone, ECU, the fuel system, TSD was the biggest help on this whole entire build. And then my guys at Spooligan and Victor Vasquez, he's the main. It's definitely different.
And I love the truck. Like I said, I saw it, and I've been a fan of that body style for a long time, and then I saw Duramax and was really interested. But like I said, I didn't understand the depth and the attention to detail on this whole truck. And I know a lot of people follow you for racing, people that are local for getting their trucks worked on and everything. But if somebody's got questions about this build or the turbo setup or maybe something else, how can they get in contact with you guys and ask questions, learn more, maybe stop in and visit you guys?
And so we're located in Splendora, Texas. Let me turn this thing around. We're located in Splendora, Texas, 12314 US Highway 59. Best point of method for contact would be, give us a call at our shop, 832-579-5467. They can hit us up on Instagram. It's SDP_Texas is our Instagram. And then Sterling Diesel Performance on Facebook.
Awesome. And then they can catch you if they go to UCC, see you guys at the S&S booth at Ultimate College Challenge.
Yes, sir. We'll be there. We're there every year. We won it the year before last, lost last year, and we're going with a plan this year. We're going to try and take home some hardware, so we will be there.
Awesome, Dustin. I appreciate you chatting with me, man, and sharing more about the build and man, it's a really cool truck. It's definitely one of a kind, and man, it just adds to the dream that I have of different things that can be done with those kind of trucks. So I appreciate you chatting with me today and walking me through this really unique build.
No problem, man. I appreciate you having me again. And as always, people need to come check out your podcast, dude. They're awesome. I listen to them all the time, and I'm happy for you for the things you got going with this podcast. Looking forward to the next one.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code 23diesel20 for 20% off site-wide. It's a great way to save some money, get some really cool gear. Kershaw's had a bunch of new knives released this year. Their latest is the Duralock model, which it's really cool the way that the blade opens and closes. The blade's made out of D2 steel, and there's a bunch of different choices for blade shape and also handle design, handle material. So if you're in the market, great way to save some money and pick up some really cool gear. I also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, J. Cole, John, all of our other Patreons, all of you who subscribe on podcast apps, YouTube, our social media pages, on our Discord. We appreciate all your support and look forward to bringing you guys more awesome diesel content in 2023. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.